Good afternoon, viewers. Thank you very much for watching Punchline Africa TV. This is a Diplomatic Leaks show, a show brought to you by Punchline Africa Television in conjunction with other agencies across the world on the situation whether Africa is coming, growing, and slowly moving towards the current rift of the Cold War. Is Africa moving towards a Cold War that we saw in the 60s, where the East and the West, the Western nations took part of Africa and part of the third world countries, and then the East took some of the other states that were fighting for freedom on the African continent and elsewhere across in America, in Nicaragua, in Cuba, in Colombia, in all those states, Panama. You see the East Marxism versus capitalism. Are we going back to this level? Is this war in Ukraine also giving us the headache that caused the Cold War in the first place? With me on the panel today, this morning, is none other Miriam Ogutu, our senior anchor in the headquarters in Nairobi. Good morning, Miriam. Good afternoon, Miriam.
Good afternoon to you and good afternoon to our viewers.
Thank you very much. And also joining us from Central Kiambu District in Kiambu City is none other than Gladwell Kiragu. Good afternoon, Gladwell.
A very good afternoon to you, Doc. Good afternoon to Miriam. Good afternoon to our viewers.
Let's get a glimpse of what Miriam can put for us together and tell us the background to this story, to this show, and the background to this topic. What is it that we are running towards? Are we ourselves drawing closer? Are we creating a world war on the continent, even when the war is very far? Are we being isolated? Are we isolating ourselves? Or are we again doing the segmentation of political science by segmenting ourselves and saying we are aligned to Russia or we are aligned to America? Miriam, bring it to us, please.
Thank you so much. And making reference to the Cold War, we know that Russia was at the heart of that, and the latest move owing to the background of the crisis we do have now between Ukraine and Russia that has really affected the rest of us. The chief diplomat, and that is Russia's Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov, is on a visit to Africa, and as part of a push by Moscow to strengthen ties with the continent, Russia aims to confront the West by building its reputation as a defender of Africa, and Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov is on an African trip for this week, and the countries that he has or he was expected to visit, which he has, majority of them, included Egypt, which he did on Sunday, and then the Republic of Congo, Uganda, and Ethiopia. And Lavrov met with Congo's President Denis Sassou Nguesso and Foreign Minister Jean-Claude Gagoso, and Lavrov's visit is the first to the country by Russia's diplomat, and then later on we saw him visit the rest of the countries, I believe, and yesterday he was in Ethiopia. And while he was there, he said Western countries are to blame for the soaring global food prices and food crisis. And he met Ethiopian officials and representatives of diplomatic corps, and his remarks to diplomats on Wednesday, he said the problems with the international food market started at the beginning of the pandemic and predate the Ukraine war, so it has nothing to do, according to him, with what is happening between Russia and Ukraine. So he's trying to lay the blame on the other side, and we know through the war that is ongoing, a lot of diplomatic ties have been severed. So at this point, Russia seems to be at a charm offensive tour, especially by its chief diplomat, to see if they can find new alliances, and of course Africa is could be a fertile ground for that. Back to you, Doc.
Thank you very much, Miriam, for giving us that background. The Foreign Minister of of Russia was in countries that Miriam has mentioned. And these countries represent a huge strategic importance of the African continent, excluded one country called Kenya. He did not pass here. He passed here by airspace. And he did not pass here. Maybe he coordinated because the coordinates of the plane could have shown that he was passing all the way coming from Egypt through Uganda. You see Nairobi very far this side, and the Nairobi signal radar can pick you up. So these are some of the things that have created a very big impact on our politics today in Africa. Are there any signs of a rupture in the international relations between Uganda and America, between Ethiopia and Egypt and the countries that he visited? Which was the other country, Miriam, that was listed?
Congo, Republic of Congo.
Oh, the Republic of Congo, which is in Gueso. And those are the countries that are hardline position. They have taken a hardline position, Miriam, on the question of Russia and Ukraine. Therefore, it is very important for us to do what is it that we want to achieve by having a Russia, and when our traditional allies are talking of us shunning Russia. Does Africa need to shun Russia? Does Africa need to be given instructions on which person you should be in bed with and whom you should talk to and not talk to? These are some of the challenges that most of the African countries are finding out. Today, some of the countries cannot even, export any material. You can be shocked, Miriam. Yesterday, I was watching President Museveni talk, and he brought up a very serious historical background of Islam and Christianity. In 1453, when Constantinople, which is the current Istanbul, fell to the hands of the Muslims who had come all the way from Saudi Arabia fighting to influence the Eastern Europe. And that is where you see it is Turkey where Islam stopped. And then it started spreading into Kazakhstan and Afghanistan, whatever, all those states in Russia. Constantinople, Emperor Constantinople was a very great guy. And he was named the city Constantinople, which is Istanbul. And when you go to Istanbul, you will find all those great palaces that he had built, and the fights, the war that took place between him and the Muslims and the Christians of the north, how Christianity penetrated the north from Istanbul. Well, that's why you find that Turkey, at the moment, Turkey has had a very rough time in convincing some. It took a long time for Turkey to convince. If Turkey was not in the NATO, it would have not been allowed to enter European Union. I think up to now it's still not a European. It entered.
Did it? Because did they allow?
It was admitted to European Union, but it had a long term. Greece refused for Turkey to be part of the European Union, and it even almost said it will pull out of the European Union. Now, if you see the war, the Cyprus war between the Turks and the Greeks, the Greek Cypriot and the Turkish Cypriots, they divided the island in the Mediterranean Sea into two parts. Greeks, the Turkish invaded Cyprus, the Greeks sent army. It is still Constantinople. The fight in Constantinople was not yet over. We wanted to see it, and we saw it on the island when they were exchanging that fight. So these are some of the things that we Africans have got to go back and learn and I'm happy that President Museveni yesterday was giving some historical, the subject, when you study political science, subject of political history, you don't lose your facts. And thank you very much, Mr. President, for not losing facts yesterday until you became the last subject that I saw yesterday of coffee, which you had. The rest of the things that you talked yesterday, Miriam, you saw a lot of about coffee husks. We export coffee directly to these African, to these European countries. They repackage the same coffee and sell the coffee. You see, the coffee that you buy in Kampala for 200 shillings, when you repackage it from Europe, it costs $12. $12. And then you see Ugandans and Africans buying at Heathrow Airport coffee. I want to take the coffee home. In actual sense, you could manufacture this coffee in Kenya and package it as Kenyan coffee. There's one thing that, yes, there's one thing that Kenyans have managed. You have done very well. You have packaged it, Miriam, your tea. You know that people come from all the way, white people, the Europeans, when you are coming to Kenya. My neighbor, the judge, has been calling me and telling me, please don't forget the tea. There is a special tea here, Kirinyaga tea or some, is it Meru or Kirinyaga tea?
Ketepa.
Yes, there's a very good tea here, which is very, very good, which is not in the UK. So there you diffuse the system. You pack your tea, they come and buy it and give you at the price. So even if you give them the raw tea, there's nothing they are going to make. Now from here, you also market your tea if you have packed it and it's very expensive. When you are selling this tea at the auction in Mombasa, they will now buy the tea at a higher price. But for us in Uganda, we have been growing this Arabic coffee every day. Since I was born, my father was saying me, Bukisi Cooperative Union is the only Arabic coffee, very nice. Bukisi Cooperative Union used to produce coffee itself. And that coffee in London, once you go with it in London, it was about 4 pounds a packet. Now, we mixed it with the entire coffee in the whole world. And what happened again? We now started sending the real coffee to Brazil or to Costa Rica or to Germany. Then they pack the coffee, Nescafe coffee. Nescafe coffee in London, the tin, which you buy here in Kenya, for about 50, is it 500 shillings or 200 shillings or 150? That Nescafe in London is about 7 pounds, 6 pounds. So you can see how people have been exploiting the African vision and through these divisions of the Cold War. Now, we have a set of Cold War that has come. The foreign minister of Russia arrived, and I'm now telling you frankly, it won't be long before you hear somebody in Uganda has been put on sanctions. It won't be long. That's what they are going to do. Because the foreign minister came there, someone is now going to punish the Ugandan officials with sanctions. Why did they meet the foreign minister of Russia? Uganda for itself, it has taken a stand which is very non-aligned movement. That's why I've been advocating for the non-aligned movement, Miriam, to come back, which used to stabilize the powers that grow from the West and that grow from the East. So we don't have non-aligned movement, and we have found ourselves in a quagmire state. I submit, therefore, the current Cold War that Africa is drawing itself into could actually be very detrimental given the effects of COVID-19 and the effects of our economies. For example, Museveni was explaining the COVID. The Museveni was explaining the costs of living. For the first time, I think I picked it, we got it right. Because Uganda is trying to avoid petrol. We were very busy and we made a mistake, and we went and invested heavily in the railway from Tanga to Mwanza, Mwanza to Bukoba, Bukoba to where? Miriam, I tell you, you know what has happened. They are now telling us that within 20 years, petrol and the fuel and the crude oil will be the thing of the past. So when the Americans did not get this contract, what did they do? They went and talked about electric buses, electric trains, hydroelectric trains using electricity. Now they are busy selling that, but the point of why they are selling that is very easy. You know why they are selling that? They are selling that because they want to avoid to make fuel, oil, which they lost to Chinese and Total Oil. They lost it. They never got anything out of it to be useless. Therefore, by 2020, 20 years to come, the whole thing will be a very different scenario. The oil that we wasted a lot of time with, the only thing we shall benefit is the light railway, which takes you over the ocean. You stay on Lake Victoria for about 5 hours, then you cross over and start going to Mwanza. Miriam, is it viable? Those are some of the things that we have to look at. In a comment you have, then I can make a takeaway when we go away.
Mm-hmm. And speaking of some of the things, Doc, that you've raised there, President Museveni said that Ugandans should stop the over-reliance on petrol. He said that about over a week ago, and he said perhaps they should start embracing the electric cars and rail transport. Electric cars are still not a very popular reality in Africa. We still don't have enough of that, even as infrastructure to accommodate that kind of technology. And also, I just wondered how is the rail network in Uganda? Because he was encouraging a lot of Ugandans to travel by train, and I wondered how vast or how well covered is Uganda as far as the rail network is concerned, that actually everyday people could use it, maybe to go to work, maybe things like that. Because I've seen places like Europe where they have the bullet trains that move around the streets and as a public transport in developed world, but we don't have that here. So I don't know how realistic that is going to be for Ugandans to use train every day and use electric cars.
Are you saying Uganda, we don't have even the rail network? The rail network that we have is the old railway, which is still there up to Pakwach. And the same railway that Captain Lugard formed or built. We have not tried to change, to build any extra railway. At least you in Kenya, you have tried, you have gone to Suswa, you have brought SGR. There you can say alternatively. But what alternative do we have? We have alternative of buses. But when he explained the question of oil, of petrol versus the other energies, and I also agreed with him that energy in Africa, we think it is you standing up and walking with strength. That's how an African, when you talk about energy, say that there's a difference between power that runs machines and the energy that you have. And the energy has several components. You English readers, experts in English, not me, has several components. The energy sector, which is the oil, the turbines, the hydroelectricity, and then you have the energy sector, which is the petrol, the diesel, and that is all. Then we have the power sector. So these are some of the things that he raised yesterday, and I could see his scientists. I think there is, last night watching His Excellency President Museveni, Miriam, I looked at him, apart from this ugly side of the army and the military, and the people behaving very badly in the military. I think he has got a brain. Honestly, he's got, and he thinks on ideas that you never expected. There's something that he convinced me yesterday about, some of the things that we can actually settle and then become reliant. Look at the guys who were explaining about COVID-19. Uganda is making its own medicine. Kenya is already making a medicine. Uganda is making its own medicine. Within the next 3 to 6 months, Uganda will have a trial. And then one of the things that I saw which came out as a result of that talk yesterday is the question of mice. I didn't know there is a special type of mice that is treated with these animals and with this medicine of trial. Me, I was assuming you can collect any mice from the bush and put them there. They are most expensive mice. No wonder the Bible talked about don't be poor as a church mouse. They are the most expensive type of mouse that are brought in for sampling. So I say we in Africa, we should desist from the notion of falling in the traps of the Cold War syndrome that used to be there in the 60s, and turn to take dialogue, engage, fight the people, fight with the passion, the freedom, the zeal, the energy, the encouragement that can be done as people of Africa. Miriam, that is what I think I can do a takeaway. Can I? Okay. Do we need a takeaway, surely, or we leave it that way?
They're ready. If you're ready, if not, then it's still okay.
Okay. In the 1960s, after the Second World War, and 1960s especially, Africa fell in the Cold War syndrome that destroyed most of the economies and prohibited most of the Africans to exchange their views in accordance with the fundamental rights of humanity. We had the East, the Soviet Union, and the United States of America. Both of them were not seeing eye to eye, and therefore they divided Africa into several compartments, that every time that you were in support of America, you are regarded as a Western ally. And any time you supported the United States of America, you are looked at as a capitalist. And then on the other side, if you supported the Soviet Union, former Soviet Union, you were looked at as a communist. This divide created quite a lot of tension. It brought military coups. It brought insecurity, wars on the continent of Africa. The first wave of the military coups in Africa were sponsored by the Western countries against the states, namely Uganda, the first, Ghana, Uganda, and Nigeria, which had successive coups, military coups that came with generals killing people, destroying property. Our case of Uganda, where humanity was destroyed and we went back to pre-colonial days. Is it time again that the colonial masters, the West and the East, Russia versus America, Russia versus the European Union, is it drawing us towards this Cold War? The answer could be not very far from what I would say, because it is becoming very clear that any time that you associate with the Russian Prime Minister, the Russian President, you support a motion in the United Nations Security Council or United Nations General Assembly against the Americans, you will be labeled, targeted as a person who is working to flout, to remove sanctions, to destroy, to work with Russia. Is it what we want in Africa? Is it what Africans want? Should we be governed and be told which state we should work with as sovereign states of Africa? The answer to me is no. We should just work and follow our own instincts in preserving the national integrity and national sovereignty of our states, instead of being lectured on by America, which state we should work with and not work with. Thank you very much, viewers. I'm Dr. David Masanga.